Grts has graduated many batches of students, all of whom commit the Holy Quran into memory. The guest speaker of the graduation ceremony is the renowned scholar and teacher Ustaz Alhaji Ndur, who delved into the essence of discipline and good manners as taught by Islam for students aspiring to be successful leaders tomorrow. He implored the graduating students to maintain unreserved respect for their parents and tutors, saying that indiscipline leads to misfortune in the search for knowledge and little worth if it's achieved. Ndur gave scenario upon scenario from the Sunnah of the Prophet and other scholars in Islam in conveying the relevance of discipline and good manners for a Muslim, pointing out that the brains behind the spread of Islam in any society are its youth. He concluded by thanking the community of Pirang for their dedication in Islam. Other speakers at the ceremony also made remarkable comments on the need to inculcate the message of truth and wisdom in the minds of the potential Islamic scholars. School authorities lamented on the state of affairs of the classrooms and the school courtyard, using the forum to request for assistance from donors and philanthropists to improve the conditions of the school. Memorization of the Holy Quran in the Gambia is fast becoming a common practice for many Muslims as parents continue to send their kids to centers across the length and breadth of the country. For GRTS News, I am Fatou Jassi. Well, we'll be back with news from outside the Gambia after this break. Welcome back. Parliamentarians in Mali are calling for early elections as the war against the Islamic fighters gains momentum. Interim President Dioncounda Traoré, for his part, proposed the 31st of July this year as the date for the presidential ballot. But as we hear in this CFI report, certain opposition groups are in support of a National Reconciliation Commission.
Bamako is under strict military surveillance. Concerns about seeing armed Islamists at the capital are slowly disappearing.
We have no fears in Bamako. I was a little worried when the war started, but after Gao and Timbuktu were taken, it's going to be better and better. Many people who had fled are returning home.
Although some Malians are still worried about a possible rebel attack in Bamako, French-led troops have taken over control of most of the north, and their military domination is paving the way for a political reawakening. At the beginning of the week, the parliament adopted a roadmap for the post-war period. A top priority will be to consolidate the Malian army.
First, we have to bring our forces up to par, provide them with training, upgrade our military material. All this will take a lot of time and will depend on the state's means.
Another essential objective for the authorities in this transitional period is to organize elections as soon as possible. The president proposes the 31st of July for the vote. The deputies are in favor of a National Reconciliation Commission. Discussions will be held with certain armed groups like the National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad, but there are conditions.
If tomorrow the MLA says it's ready to be part of the Republic of Mali, if tomorrow they put down their weapons, if they give up the idea of Azawad, then no problem. The FDR will back all initiatives.
There is also the question of determining the fate of persons who physically attacked President Traoré several months ago. As for the political forces opposing the transition, they haven't said their last word yet.
Elsewhere in Amarnia, speculations are rife that the presidential elections will not hold as scheduled. This comes after the killing of the main opposition leader in the country's capital by an unknown gunman, and Cambodians have gathered for the funeral of their former king who died at the age of 87. We have details of these and other stories in this World News Roundup.
In Mexico, an explosion at the headquarters of the Mexican state-run oil giant Pemex killed 25 people and injured over 100. The explosion extensively damaged 3 floors. Most of the 3,500 employees were evacuated. According to Mexico's Civil Protection Agency, an apparent accumulation of gas in the electrical supply room caused the explosion. In Armenia, an unknown attacker shot and wounded a prominent candidate in Armenia's presidential election. 63-year-old Paru Hirikian, the head of the Union for National Self-Determination, is one of Armenia's best-known opposition politicians. He was shot in the capital Yerevan as he was returning home. Officials say the presidential election could be postponed, but the delay has yet to be confirmed. A criminal investigation has been launched to find the gunman. Cambodia is paying its last respects to Norodom Sihanouk. A sea of mourners filled the streets of the capital Phnom Penh Friday for the funeral of former King Norodom Sihanouk, who died at the age of 89 on the 15th of October last. His embalmed remains were taken in a golden casket from the royal palace to the crematorium, where it will be incinerated in 3 days' time. A 101-gun salute marked the procession. These are 9 new bells to be fitted at the Notre Dame Cathedral in the French capital. Paris is celebrating Notre Dame's 850th anniversary. Some of the old bells were not in tune because of low-quality metals, which is why they are being replaced. Hundreds lined the streets of the French capital to watch the bells being carried to Notre Dame, where crowds gathered to the ringing of the old bells.
It's too soon to know who was behind Friday's suicide attack on the U.S. embassy in Ankara. It could be recalled that the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya, came under violent attacks last year, leaving 4 people dead, including the ambassador himself. CNN's Barbara Starr examines the threats posed by extremists to the U.S., especially in North Africa.
Success of the attack on a gas plant in Algeria, extremists are growing more daring. A senior U.S. intelligence official tells CNN, quote, "What we have seen is intelligence suggesting a desire to carry out more attacks against Western and U.S. interests in the region. Though there are no specific targets yet that the U.S. knows of, one of those plotting, Mukhtar Belmokhtar, was the mastermind of the Algeria attack." But threats are now coming from multiple al-Qaeda groups in Africa.
We're starting to see increasing collaboration, sharing of funding, sharing recruiting efforts, sharing of weapons and explosives, and certainly a sharing of ideology that is expanding and connecting these various organizations.
If Chuck Hagel becomes the next Secretary of Defense, he already knows what he's facing.
I will ensure we stay vigilant and keep up the pressure on terrorist organizations as they try to expand their affiliates around the world in places like Yemen, Somalia, and North Africa.
But when it comes to North Africa, U.S. intelligence agencies may be of limited use to him. That senior U.S. intelligence official tells CNN, quote, "We do not have the level of resources, the footprint, or the capabilities we have in other theaters." After years of focusing on Pakistan and Afghanistan, the map has changed. From Mali to Algeria, Niger, Libya, and Egypt, the Obama administration is struggling to catch up. U.S. intelligence is now working with France, whose own spy networks are more established in the former French colonies in Africa. And the U.S. will set up a drone base in Niger to fly over safe havens, hoping to catch terrorists before there is a direct threat to the U.S. homeland.
I'm not ruling it out. We take al-Qaeda wherever they are very seriously, and we are not going to rest on our laurels until we find that kind of specific and credible information.
But if there is a threat that requires U.S. military force, the options for the president may be very difficult. Al-Qaeda in Africa has no central headquarters, no Osama bin Laden, and potentially thousands of fighters spread out over thousands of miles of remote desert. Barbara Starr, CNN, the Pentagon.
Well, we now take our second break. We'll be right back.